America. It's Erick Erickson. It is November 21st. These are the four things you need to know this afternoon. Up first, the President of the United States says he wants Ukraine's response by Thursday for his 28-point peace plan. His peace plan is falling flat with Republicans on Capitol Hill and with European leaders giving Vladimir Putin most of what he wants, including territory not even conquered by the Russians. Ukraine's president does not seem like he wants to accept this plan, but President Trump is suggesting if they don't, he'll yank all the weapons and deny Ukraine the ability to defend itself. European leaders reportedly furious, and Republicans on Capitol Hill likewise furious with both the president and Steve Witkoff over this. The president, now a lame duck, risks further breaks with Republicans on Capitol Hill. This isn't a good peace plan. It does give Russia way more than what it should be given, including land it hasn't even conquered, and would actually provide security guarantees to the Ukrainians that could tie Americans up in Ukraine in ways that the president has in the past suggested he does not want to do. It's a poorly thought out plan by Steve Witkoff. Behind the scenes, there are rumors that Marco Rubio, despite his public statements of support for the plan, is trying to undermine the plan. European leaders, including some the president is actually close to, are also trying to undermine the plan. The only people who seem happy about it are the Russians, and we should not be making the Russians happy, particularly when Ukraine has been able to hold them at bay for as long as they have. Up next, Congressman Mike Collins, the frontrunner in the Georgia Senate race, and his chief of staff, Brandon Phillips, are under investigation by the House Ethics Committee. This hit just as I was going off air from radio today. It's a very big deal down in Georgia where Jon Ossoff, the Democratic senator, is ranked the most endangered Democrat in the United States Senate. But if Collins is under a congressional ethics investigation with his chief of staff, that could be a big issue. Now, a buddy of mine, actually, let me pull this up here on the fly as I'm talking to you, reminds me of this story that hit the wire some time ago. Georgia Representative Mike Collins, chief of staff, hired his girlfriend as an intern and paid her more than $10,000 despite a lackluster work ethic, according to former staffers. According to a Daily Mail exclusive, Brandon Phillips, 39, gave an open internship role to his girlfriend, age 26, revealing her salary was $5,244 for working less than 8 weeks. She was paid $5,044 in 2023, working from November 4th to December 31st. In total, she earned more than $10,000 for her pair of short-term stints, despite staffers saying she never really showed up for work. Former district director confronted Phillips about his girlfriend's role after being contacted by the office's financial department. The person who confronted the chief of staff about his girlfriend was then fired. This appears to be what this is about, perhaps, although the ethics committee doesn't say. This throws a monkey wrench into the race down in Georgia where Mike Collins looked like he was consolidating a lot of support in that race. Derek Dooley is the governor of Georgia's candidate. He doesn't have congressional experience. The governor believes that Derek Dooley was a University of Tennessee football coach and from the famed Dooley family of Georgia. As an outsider, would actually have better claims to go up against Jon Ossoff than someone who's in Congress like Mike Collins. Expect the Dooley campaign to leverage this news. The Justice Department is saying that John Bolton, former ambassador, national security advisor, could face additional charges. Now, you'll remember the reaction of people when this story first came out was that this was Donald Trump punishing his enemies. John Bolton, having been a friend, then pushed out of the White House and now an ardent critic of the president, has tried to cast this as payback from the president. But now comes word that the investigation began during the Biden administration. And now John Bolton and his friends are saying, well, this was the Biden administration going after their enemies, but now it's Donald Trump going after his enemies. It appears that Bolton mishandled classified information and possibly knowingly exchanged sensitive information through an email channel that he knew was compromised by, among others, the Iranians. The Justice Department signaling in court that there may be additional charges coming. Lastly, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is making a lot of healthcare officials and U.S. senators furious by getting the CDC to change language on its website that denies the ties between vaccines and autism. Now, you need to understand, and I know I'm playing with the fringe crowd here, that there are some doctors who have claimed there are ties between autism and vaccines. But those are based on a deeply flawed study years ago, and there have been a lot of studies since that have debunked the claim of autism in vaccines. There have been a lot of claims, essentially, that we overload kids with vaccines and that causes autism, among other things. There's never been substantive research on that, but in fact, Robert F. Kennedy has peddled this conspiracy theories for years. We are on the verge of a measles explosion in this country because people have started doubting vaccines based on Robert F. Kennedy and his outside groups that he's long supported, touted, and advanced. We're going to see a lot of kids in this country get diseases, if not die, because of the growing skepticism on vaccines due to autism because of Robert F. Kennedy. The Secretary of Health and Human Services, in addition to being the cabinet secretary who has probably paid for more abortions than all other cabinet secretaries combined in American history, also probably is going to lead to more deaths and disease and infections of Americans by causing so much skepticism. It seems our Secretary of Health and Human Services is more about Secretary of Death and Dying than Health and Human Services. He's fueling conspiracy theories, upending the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and seeding lies where there had been truth. He's an abomination as a pick for Health and Human Services Secretary and should be gone. But those that be in the administration and those who have embraced faith healing for hippies, they like RFK. And let's be clear here, what he does advance is a version of faith healing for hippies in this country and people who don't trust the experts. The experts, plenty of them discredited themselves, but there are also a lot of people who hated the experts who had not discredited themselves. And the people who are in charge of the fringe conspiracies are now in charge of the CDC. And a lot of Americans will get poor guidance from the government over their health, thanks to Robert Kennedy. These are the 4 things you need to know this afternoon. I am Erick Erickson. I will be back with you next week, even though it's Thanksgiving. Remember, this is very important. Remember, take your turkey out and put it in the refrigerator to start thawing. Don't leave it on the counter. Take it out of the freezer, move it to the fridge, do a slow thaw over the next few days, and have a great Thanksgiving. I will be back here, though, next week. In the meantime, stay informed, stay engaged, and remember, going to church on Sunday is a Saturday decision.